All right, welcome. Carl Rominger here, weekend appointment, putting my legal thinking cap on so I can answer your questions today. I get to talk a little bit about politics. We had a great discussion with Mark Vergenis from Lancaster, who's our financial guru. And by the way, if you need to get in contact with Mark, or you heard him yesterday, and you need to talk to somebody about investments, investment strategies, retirement, things like that, just go to weekendappointment.com. I've got his contact information up under friend of the show, or just send me an email and I'll get you his contact information. We had a great discussion with a caller about quantitative easing 3. We had Lois come on and talk with us a little bit about her concerns, and I think that a lot of people have with the U.S. currency being removed as the reserve currency, or the possibility of that, and whether we're going to be able to adequately defend that. And we had a caller who told us that some of the oil giants are already starting to move out of the dollar, and that's all big stuff. So legal question for me here today. But nonetheless, if you want to get hold of Mark, that's the way to do it. And again, that's why I bring him on periodically. Even though we're, quote, a legal show, I like to keep us up to date on what's going on with finances in the world, because that affects our estate plans, that affects our long-term plans, and it's just interesting sometimes to talk about that stuff. Tom, you're on the air with Carl Rominger.
Thank you. Carl?
Yeah.
I have a question on this. This matter is in the paper recently. On this grand jury business, is the state, or say a district attorney, bound by the grand jury's finding? In other words, a grand jury might say, well, we don't think there's enough evidence to go forward with this, but can the state go forward anyway? Or
well, here's the answer. In the state system, in the federal system, let me answer it in reverse here. In the federal system, the grand jury indicts, meaning if they don't indict, then the prosecutor can't indict. Okay, that's the power of the grand jury.
Okay.
In the state system, if the grand jury comes back with a result, it's just a recommendation.
Uh-huh.
And so that recommendation could be sidestepped by the district attorney, who could just have somebody, an affiant, a detective, swear out their belief of how a crime was committed with probable cause, and then an arrest warrant or summons could be issued. So the short answer is they're not bound by the grand jury.
Okay, and in other words, what you're saying, in the state system, then the grand jury does not indict, but they do in the federal. Correct.
In the state system, it's an investigatory grand jury, and they are just an investigatory tool that a district attorney can use. Now, quite often, when the grand jury does hand down a recommendation, they will use that as the basis to bring the charges, and they can do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Mm-hmm.
No problem. And I'm going to let you go here because your connection's horrible, but just to follow up a little bit on that, in Pennsylvania, and I just did a thing, should you talk to the police on weekendappointment.com, or do I have to talk to the police, I think is what it's really called. And it tells you about your rights. And one of the things is you don't have to talk to the police. So the investigating grand jury is how prosecutors bring you in and force you to talk. And a lot of people will show up at a grand jury session and they're offered the opportunity to get a lawyer, but they figure, I'm just a witness. Well, under the Pennsylvania system, there's no requirement to tell you that you're the target of the grand jury, or that you're potentially a target of the prosecutor. So whereas a federal grand jury, you get a target letter and you kind of know you're being investigated, you might get an invitation to an investigating grand jury in Pennsylvania, and you're at risk. So I can never understand anybody who ever goes in front of a grand jury in Pennsylvania, or a federal grand jury for that matter, without an attorney, because you need to know the ground rules. You may have certain privileges. And, of course, if you read our thing on weekendappointment.com, it's right up on the front. It'll tell you how, even if you think you're law-abiding, and even if you think you haven't done anything wrong, you might actually be being investigated for breaking the law, and you may actually be guilty of something because, quite frankly, there are gazillion laws out there. But one we point out is a guy from United States who broke Honduran law. And he didn't realize he was breaking Honduran law, but the U.S. has a law that sweeps in all the other countries' laws whenever you do a financial transaction or a trade transaction involving importing goods or things from another country. And so not only are you deemed to know all the laws you don't know in the U.S. and all your state laws you probably don't know off the top of your head, but you have to know all the laws of the country you're doing business with as well. And even if they don't want to prosecute you, and of course in the case I highlight in there, this Honduran law, according to the Hondurans, isn't even in effect, and they don't even believe they still follow it or use it. But this guy's sitting in jail because of it. And, of course, I'm sure when the police came knocking on his door or the grand jury, invites him in to talk, he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. So away he talks. And when you're a lawyer, what you do is you try to figure out what's going on and why they want to talk to your guy, and is he really a witness or is he really in jeopardy? So word to the wise, if the police want to talk to you, talk to a lawyer. If the grand jury subpoenas you, talk to a lawyer. Always when the government wants to interact with you in an investigatory function, it may also be or become a prosecutorial function. What's going on, Jim?
Hi, Carl. How are you?
Good.
Hey, about 5 years ago, I purchased a piece of property. Had the subdivision plans all approved by the township. So last year, I start to build a house. A gentleman from Dauphin County Conservation District shows up with a completely different plan than the one the township gave me. Now, his plan shows all kinds of engineering, and I went back to the township. They don't know nothing about it. They tell me they don't like that plan, and I said, well, okay, I'll have it redone. And to make it all said and done, the same engineer that I paid the first time, now they're giving me a bill for $3,000 to pay this same engineer for the township a second time. Is there am I obligated to pay that, Carl?
So I'm trying to figure this out.
It's confusing, let me tell you.
You get one plan approved by the township.
Yes, sir.
And then somebody else shows up and says, here's the new plan, but nobody likes that plan, so then the township does a new plan.
Well, no, I did the new plan.
You did the new plan.
I volunteered to do a new plan because their supervisor said, we don't like this plan. If we would have known what was in it, we would have never signed it. We don't like it. So I said, okay, I'll get it re-engineered and see if we can't change it.
Right.
So I did that. We changed it. But then they tell me before they'll sign it, I got to pay their engineer who looked at the first plan another $3,000 because he needs to be paid for his engineering time.
Right.
And he's the guy who approved the first stupid plan.
Huh. Well, the short answer is I don't know the answer because I'm trying to figure out where the obligations lie. But what the township's saying is what they're not going to approve the plan unless it's paid for.
Right. Yep. And this was all. The first plan was approved 5 years ago.
Right. And then
go ahead.
And you decided not to go with the first plan.
Well, when I actually saw the plan that Dauphin County Conservation District brought out after the settlement, it was a stupid plan.
Okay.
So, there were 400-foot long ditches and so forth, and when I presented it to the township, they said, "No, we don't want that. We don't want that anyway."
Right.
So I agreed to do it over, but I didn't agree to pay their engineer a second time to review the second plan. I figured everybody would pay for their own mistakes.
Right. Well, short answer is, yeah, you would think that. Long answer is if the township's going to make it a prerequisite for approval, I don't know, maybe we could negotiate something out with them. But I can't seem in my mind to figure out if there's a legal obligation or not. But it seems like somebody did work and they should be compensated for it. But what you're saying is the first plan was no good, but it sounds like that plan was sort of accepted and adopted.
Yes, they did approve it.
And you were happy with it until you apparently learned more about it.
Right. You've got it.
And so in one respect, I guess we should have said before it was approved, you should have seen it with all the changes that the Conservation District put on it. So yeah, I don't understand how that happened.
They didn't have it at the signing of. They didn't have the right plan. They actually signed the wrong plan.
They signed the wrong plan. Yeah, it seems like the township's partly at fault too.
That's what I think too.
I don't know. Maybe they'll pay half the bill.
And how do I get you involved?
Just come see me. You can go to weekendappointment.com to get a hold of me. I'd be happy to look at it off the air and just kind of map it out in our minds. I mean, $3,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, especially when I paid them $3,000 the first time to their engineer the first time.
Yeah. All right.
The bills I get are really screwy.
Go to weekendappointment.com, look me up, and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
All right, brother. Got to go to break. Dave, hold on. I'll be with you after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. I'm an attorney. I'm answering your legal. And I answer them on Facebook and weekendappointment.com, too. And so course, I had somebody on Facebook send me a message. He wants to know if he has to give up his business return. He gives his personal tax return to the domestic relations, and now they want to see his business return. He really doesn't want to provide it because he doesn't think it's any of their business, and I agree with him, except that the law says he has to. And what do I mean by that? Well, I understand, and you tell you if it was a legitimate business, what's a wholly owned business or a partnership you're in or whatever, if you're an owner, they want to see because there are many ways you can, for instance, take depreciation as a deduction and hide income. And for you, the not a business owner out there, the concept of depreciation is like you buy a vehicle and you take 1/5 the value of the vehicle, or say 1/15 the value of a building, and deduct it as if it were an expense. And so it's possible to have money in your pocket and defer tax on the item, or basically defer tax by depreciating the item. So if I had child support, I come in and I go, look, I only made $9,000 last year, but if I'm depreciating 3 dump trucks, I might have actually made, $48,000 or $58,000, but my depreciation means I only have to pay tax on $9,000. So I can pay for that hunting trip out west, but I can still tell my ex-wife I only have $9,000 in income to pay child support with, and that's why they need to see your business return. So, guys, if you go to weekendappointment.com, you can send me questions there, and we'll keep answering them. Sometimes it takes me a couple days, but we will get them answered. If you have an immediate legal need, you just call us at the office and come in and see us. And, of course, if you're a Facebook friend of mine, you can hit me up with those questions and get answers from me on the fly. And Dave's up next. Dave, what's going on?
Oh, hey, Carl. I have a question about sovereignty. Have you ever helped someone become sovereign?
Sovereign?
Sovereign, yeah.
You mean a sovereign is like the king?
Yeah. It kind of helps you, protects you from being the person that you are against the government. There's some paperwork involved with it, and if you want to do that, you can. It's just I don't know.
I've never heard of anybody becoming a sovereign, except in England. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. Post something on weekendappointment.com so I can check it out. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll find out about that. John, do you want to be king too?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm still stuck in there and taking up space.
Good. I think that's good. Did you go trout fishing this morning?
No, I had other things I had to do.
Yeah, it was a little chilly for me to go out. I'm one of those guys that's like, I'll just go out tomorrow morning. When there's less people, maybe it's warmer.
Bass fishing's better. It's warmer that time of year.
It always is.
Do you do bankruptcy at all?
We do in my office, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. How would I go about setting up an appointment with you to discuss it?
The easiest way to do it is just go to weekendappointment.com. You'll find there's a link that says Hire Carl, and you click it and just gives you our phone number and an email. What you're going to want to do, and anybody that's interested in doing a bankruptcy, what I tell people is bring me as many of the bills and things you're getting as possible so we have a picture right off the bat. And if you really want to come prepared, go ahead and get your 3 credit reports, and bring those along as well. And because if you are legitimately going to go bankrupt, you want to make sure you find every debt you might have that you know about or even can't remember, and there might be something sitting on a credit report. Also, most recent tax returns and most recent pay stubs if you have them, and any bank account information. So basically, we have to do a due diligence with you where we figure out what your assets are and we figure out what your debts are, and then we plug it all into a computer system that the federal government maintains for doing bankruptcies. And we can work from there.
All right. The reason I'm asking is,
You're breaking up.
I said the reason I'm asking is times are tough and money's hard, and then I was on unemployment for how long?
No, absolutely.
And now unemployment's telling me they want all their money back. It's like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. So, that may be another issue too. We're finding some other people. We're finding some other people getting the same problem. It seems like unemployment's going around looking for money wherever they can because they owe, they borrowed a couple billion from the federal government they're going to have to pay back. So it sounds like they're trying to squeeze it out of some people because you're not the first person I've heard this from. So bring their notice along as well. So just go to weekendappointment.com, get an appointment, and we'll figure this out.
I do appreciate your time, sir.
All right, brother. The cell phones are out today. Can you tell that? Yeah, Shane's nodding his head. Frank, you're on WHP with attorney Carl Rominger. Hey, Frank.
Hey, I have a small business. We sell building supplies and that type of thing. And I had a contractor come in and buy some laminate floor, you know, a floating laminate floor. And they installed it in a restaurant. And about a month goes by, and I get a call from the contractor complaining that the floor isn't working out like they wanted it to. So I said to him, well, I'll go over and I'll take a look at it for you. I'll just go over and take a look at it, see what's up. When I went over there, they installed it completely wrong, but they put a 3,000-pound oven on a floating floor.
Okay.
And it was popping up in places. The floor wasn't leveled and all that. So the customer, well, anyhow, I said to his customer, they said, what would we do? And I said, well, you're going to have to talk to the contractor about that, but I got to, in my opinion, it doesn't look like it was installed properly. Well, I got a letter from a lawyer saying that I have
defame them.
Now, 15 days for me to repair the floor because the people at the pizza shop or the restaurant said, well, do you know anybody that can fix it? And I said, well, I may know somebody, but I can't guarantee anything. And
right.
Well, anyhow, the floor was completely installed wrong. So now I get this letter that I'm being sued. I have to go over and fix it. Well, I'm not a contractor. I just sell.
Right. Well, the answer there is that letter's probably best answered. Was it from a lawyer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's probably best answered by a lawyer then. What we would do is basically, I would talk with you, get a little more information, but what I'm hearing from you is this. This was not a product defect. This was an installation defect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you put a laminate floor down, it's called a floating floor. It floats.
Right.
You don't put a 3,000-pound pizza oven on top of a floating floor.
And see, now, of course, and that's the kind of stuff that we would point out in our letter, and hopefully the other lawyer, here's what you're always worried about. You're worried about that the other lawyer is just not thinking it through right or is getting bad information from the customer or whoever. But the short answer is if you have a lawyer who's clever, they would be doing the same thing, but they might sometimes need it pointed out to them like, hey, why don't you talk to somebody and here's what you're going to learn. And so if you want to come to court, great. But what the judge is going to say is, I don't know anything about flooring, but the 3 flooring guys I heard testify all say that you don't put a 3,000-pound pizza oven on a floating floor, and the contractor's the one who picked the product and did the specifications.
Well, if I'm being sued, apparently now this is all I'm going to have to. I'll go on your website, but since I'm being sued, it's going to cost me money now to defend myself against this type of a thing.
Yeah, and generally speaking, you're going to be stuck with that bill. And that's why early on in the transaction, we don't want to let them actually sue you. We want to respond to the letter at length and point out all the reasons why a lawsuit would fail and point them back at the contractor.
Now, do I have any recourse if it did go? Do I have any recourse on collecting if they lose, get my money back?
Perhaps not getting your legal fees back. But you could at least join the contractor in. In other words, if they don't sue the right guy and you're the wrong guy, you can drag him in as an additional defendant.
Okay, now I have insurance for my business, and then my insurance will probably cover that, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, your insurance company may cover it.
Okay.
And they may provide you with an attorney. So you might want to talk to your lines carrier.
My insurance carrier before I go any further.
Yeah, you might want to put them on notice and see if they would be interested in providing a defense to it. And that's actually a very legitimate way of doing it. In fact, I just did a insurance defense piece for an insurance company, on a homeowner's policy where somebody was sued over a whole bunch of different stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, he should check with the insurance company, see if he's got coverage. If he doesn't, then he comes see me because the insurance company usually picks an attorney that they work with regularly. Hey, welcome back. Margaret, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Well, Mr. Rominger, I'm calling about what's required of a power of attorney.
Well, In terms of, you mean the person who has it, or what's required for it to be a power of attorney?
What is expected of a power of attorney?
Okay, well, a power of attorney is an agent for the principal, and the power of attorney itself, the document that creates it, says what the agent can and can't do. And we'll assume for a moment that you're talking about a general power of attorney, a general durable power of attorney that a husband might give a wife, or a person might give a child to help them with their affairs as they age, etc. And in that case, the agent's duty is to manage the funds of the principal for the best interest of the principal, to keep an accounting of everything they do, and to keep the funds separate from their own.
Well, aren't they required to inform the person they're power of attorney for, to keep them informed?
The short answer is they certainly should keep them informed. I'm not sure they have to, though, because the power of attorney contemplates that you've made them their agent and given them plenary power to do what they want. And so while certainly at your request, they should be able to do that because they did have a duty to keep everything separate, so it should be very easy for them to do it. A power of attorney also contemplates most cases that it's durable, meaning you could have gone into a point of incompetency. And so if you're incompetent, there's no point reporting it to you. And unlike a guardianship, there's no requirement that you report what you do to the court or any other third party. But here's the answer. If you gave somebody a power of attorney and you asked them what's going on and they don't tell you, get a new one.
Well, what if they talk to the attorney or an attorney who's involved, and you're not informed?
Yeah, that's you. I mean, you have the absolute right to revoke that power of attorney and give it to some third party, or to demand to be involved in what's going on. In other words, if you've given a power of attorney to me and I'm running around doing things you're not happy about, or at least I'm just not telling you what I'm doing and that's making you upset, you can do the what I call it the come to Jesus talk. You can continue to be my power of attorney, but here is what I expect. Otherwise, I'm revoking it and I'll get a new one.
How do you go about that?
Well, you just see a guy like me, or you just in writing send the person a letter saying, I hereby revoke the power of attorney that you previously have, and then it would be illegal for them to use it knowing that it was revoked, and then you create a new one for whoever else you want.
Well, what about if they block your phone number and you cannot get in touch with them?
Well, you're principal, you're the principal, and if your agent's doing that, then you need to go see a lawyer and have them handle this for you, because it sounds like somebody is doing things you don't want.
Well,
now,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm assuming you're still competent. You sound competent.
Yes.
So you should be fine.
Well, what if they call your attorney?
Well, they can call your attorney because you gave them a power of attorney, but you can call your attorney too, and your instructions are superior to your power of attorney. Call your attorney up and say, don't listen to my power of attorney. Listen to me only.
Well, what if they call your attorney and your number is blocked from contacting them? And they talk to the attorney, and the attorney, who does he bill?
Well, he would bill you because they're calling on your behalf, right? Or he would bill them, and they would be able to take it out of your funds.
No, because they were told not to call.
Well, then you got to revoke that power of attorney, or at least change the scope of it.
Bill? Who pays the bill?
Somebody's got to pay the bill, Margaret. And if they're acting on your behalf or they're acting under your power of attorney, they pay. All right. It sounds like you need to talk with your attorney and or your power of attorney and work this out, because you need to either find a new power of attorney, one that you can trust and will do what you say, or just live with the situation. But you got to do something affirmative. You can't just sit on your hands, okay?
Well, they have my number blocked.
Well, Margaret, you can call out. You just called me, right?
Right.
Call your attorney and have him give you a new power of attorney for a new person, all right?
Well, I was just wondering who pays the bill.
You do. All right, got to let you go, Margaret. Sorry about that. I don't think... I don't like what's going on, but I won't pay nobody no money to change it. Norm, you're on with Carl Rominger.
Yeah, hi, Carl. How are you?
Good.
This is slightly unusual. It sounds like it's medical, but it's really not. I bought a reclining chair from, doesn't matter who, Lazy Boy. And after 2 days of having it, sitting on it, I started getting incredible pains in my head and my eye. And it turned out I developed a sinus infection, really bad one.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had anything in my life. So I went to doctor after doctor to the hospital, and they said that's what it was. And when I came back to the house and I'm sitting on a chair, it always gets worse. So I called up the Lazy Boy and I told them that there must be something in this material. It's a brand new chair.
Right.
And they worked with me and they said they would take it back and exchange it. So they did, and they gave me a new one. My sinus infection got somewhat better, and after sitting in this same chair, this new chair, it's starting once again to get worse and worse. The minute I get off the chair, my head clears up. So I know there must be some chemical that they're using in the material. And I don't know if there's anything. I've called them now, and for the second time. They didn't return the call. Maybe they will yet. But I'm wondering if I have any legal rights. Because I have another new chair, and it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is if you're allergic to something in it, most reputable manufacturers would take it back. The problem, of course, always is, you never know if that's what's actually causing the problem or not. If I'm the manufacturer, I might be skeptical. Is that really what it is? So anyhow, I guess what I would recommend you do is consider seeing if they'll take it back, and if they won't, maybe formalizing a request for that and saying,
meeting, right?
Yeah, I would do a written letter to them at some point if they don't take it back.
Okay.
All right, man.
If they don't?
They don't take it back, write them a letter.
And if
they still don't take it back, you might want to sue them, but here's the problem. Your proof is going to be very tough. You're going to have to bring in a doctor to say this is what's causing it, that there's some connection between the chair and your medical condition.
Yeah. What I thought was I could take a piece of material and have it analyzed, but I guess that would cost more than the chair.
Yeah, that probably costs money too. Yeah. It's hard to say. Listen, everybody's got sensitivity to something. We got kids that'll die if they see a peanut.
Yeah, right.
You can't even take a Nutty Buddy to school anymore. All right, man.
I've never had anything in my life until now when I'm almost 70 years old, so it's sort of strange. I've never had any sinus problem.
And there might be something in that chair that's disagreeing. It might be some coating or chemical. We've heard about the drywall from China that gives off strange smells and gases. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, Norm.
Okay, well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, and how much does that stink? You get a new Lazy Boy, you're just going to recline, lay back, watch the tube, enjoy yourself, and it's off-gassing something. But who knows? That's the problem. Who knows? Maybe you're just turned 70 and your body's changing and you're allergic to some mold that's growing on the baseboard near the chair. John.
Yes.
What's going on?
Thank you for taking my call. I enjoy your show very much. I have a landlord tenant issue. Had to evict a tenant last February of 10 it would be.
Okay.
And I got a judgment from the district magistrate, and it was worth about $5,000, I think, with back rent and different things. To clean the place up after they left, it was another $3,800. Now I'm wondering, I do not know the new address of the person.
Right.
Is it going to do me any good to go to the pathonetary and file a suit, and what is the process there?
Well, you got to find them to sue them, I guess. Otherwise, you can do it by publication. But if you can't find them, then you have a judgment filed against them of record. But how do you execute it till you find them?
Right.
So then the question is it worth the cost of it? Now, do you already have a judgment for the $5,000?
I do for the lost rent, yes.
Right, and of course they haven't paid on that yet.
Correct.
And so here's the question: for you could sue them at the DJ again for the additional $3,000. I can't see why you couldn't do that just as another civil suit because those are new damages.
Uh-huh.
and then record those at the prothonotary. It's probably the cheaper way to do it. And as for finding them for service, I guess you go with their last known address, but then again, it's just going to come back. So it sounds like a big pain, and it sounds like realistically you're probably never going to get your $5,000 anyhow.
Right.
So why go after the other three?
Well, what is the cost to go to the district magistrate and then the pathonotary?
Well, and I think you'd be talking another couple $100 at least.
Uh-huh.
And you got to get them found and served, and so that might have cost of finding them as well.
Right.
It just doesn't sound like a great situation. It sounds like you already got a $5,000 judgment against somebody who's probably never going to pay a $1,000 judgment.
Right.
So I don't see what the purpose of getting it up to $9,000 or $10,000 would be. Because now, if you legitimately think you might pursue it and someday get some money out of them, hey, more power to you.
Right.
But my advice would be next time, don't let the tenant get so far behind.
Well, it was a matter of $1,400 a month until we went through all the waiting periods for the eviction.
Right.
It was $5,000.
It was $5,000, yeah. Oh. And did you credit check them before you put them in?
We did.
Huh. It's even worse. You did all the things you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's the short answer is I don't know what to tell you to do because it's a business decision. In my mind, I would tell you, if you said, Carl, what would you do? I would say, I'm not throwing more money after bad because I'm not planning on getting my $5,000 out of them.
Right.
On the other hand, if I think I could get my $5,000 out of them, then I would go for more because why not? Maybe I can get that out of them too. That's the question.
The district magistrate at the time advised us that the judgment would be entered somehow, and that
you have to take the judgment.
If they tried to buy a house or something like that, or whatever, it'll
sit there, or they file bankruptcy and it gets discharged. But but what I'm saying is, I'm not sure I would spend a few $100 more to make it bigger or not. That's up to you. That's a business decision.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
All right. No problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a business decision. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. Remember to go to weekendappointment.com and claim that free will if you haven't done it already. We've been offering it for a long time, and they still trickle in. So I know there's people out there that have been too lazy to do it. You just download a kit, and it's real simple. It's a piece of paper. You fill it out. You give some information. You send it in, and you get an appointment with a real live lawyer, not one of these internet things. It's not some crazy will that's going to cause your family grief someday. We also talk about powers of attorney, living wills. And if you just have documents done already and you just need them reviewed, the cost for that will is free. So it's absolutely essential you do it. The other bonus of going to weekendappointment.com is you can see the stories we're putting up, or actually I should say informative pieces. For instance, we've got a piece on can the police search your car roadside? A little over 500 people have read that. I put one up yesterday. Do I have to talk to the police? 200 people have read that. Over 1,000 people have read are your Facebook post private. So obviously these are informative, and it's something you're going to want to pass on to friends. If you got a kid and you're worried about them and you want them to know a little bit more about Facebook and privacy, have them read this so they understand. People seem to think that because they've circumscribed who their friends are on Facebook, that somehow their postings are private and can't be used against them for school discipline, work discipline, or in other legal proceedings. And that's just dead wrong, and we explain how that actually works. So go to weekendappointment.com and read through. We've also got hundreds of questions we've answered over the last couple of years. So you may have a question you want to ask me and you didn't get through today. You might already find the answer on there. And, of course, if you don't, you just go ahead and post a question. Also, it's interactive. So if you see somebody else's situation and they've asked a question and I've answered it or I haven't answered it yet, but you want to weigh in with your experience, we appreciate that. It's a great format for people to share information. It's just weekendappointment.com. And, of course, don't forget to hit me up on Facebook as well. Jesse, what's going on?
Hi, Carl. I got a softball traffic violation question for you here. Basically, I was driving through Dauphin, minding my own business, and a state trooper happened to pull out behind me. He wasn't, looking to give me a citation. I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
So he runs up on me and he starts actually tailing me pretty tight, and I guess he was running my plate. Okay, good enough, whatever. Cherries go on, so I pull over. I'm totally respectful. He comes up to me and he's, the owner of this vehicle's license is suspended, and I was like, no, and he was like, it's showing you're suspended here, and I was like, well, I didn't realize that, and I'm sure it's something stupid like probably a restoration fee because I had some fines earlier this year that I paid off. And, so it is like legitimate ignorance on my part, basically, because I did get a letter from PennDOT that said, regarding that threat we had issued you on this letter, the last letter, that's all cool because we saw that you paid your fine off, so way to go. I went to PennDOT the very next morning and paid my restoration fee, and the lady at PennDOT was like, "Oh, you paid that fine off on the 20th. If you would have paid it off on the 19th, everything would have been fine." I'm like, okay, so we're talking a matter of hours here. But it was blatant ignorance on my part, and I just wanted to see what I'm going to look forward to because I did call the officer the next morning, and he's being pretty nice about it. I was like, listen, I paid this. I'm back. I'm legal. I don't know what we're going to do here. Can you scrub this? And he's like, I can't scrub it, but what you should do is plead not guilty, and we'll go to court and see what we can do there. Well, I'm thinking that, I'm probably going to lose my license for a year and, have
you are
dollars in fines for me.
You are. But are you ready? Listen, this is exactly, we deal with these all the time. And usually if you were respectful to the officer and I can show him on paper how there was an oversight and you got it done, there's a couple alternative charges that we can use. And there's one that fits the bill. I'm not going to tell you what it is on the air. But there's one that fits the bill that carries no driver's license suspension.
Okay.
And a minimal fine. That's one we most often use because it's technically, the crime could fit either one of those subsections of the traffic statutes.
All right.
And it's a natural fit when they want to give you a break. The good news is you can't get the break more than once in 7 years, or else that charge does carry a license suspension. So the officers like it because they feel like, all right, if I give this guy a break, but somehow he's just a big weasel and I didn't realize it, he's not going to be able to get the same break again, the next time he repeats if he does it. So that's the most common solution. And I find that most police officers are not there to jam you up. And if they see that you weren't just being, completely ignorant, so to speak, in the parlance, in the slang sense of ignorance, right, that they'll give you a break. Shoot me an email if you want me to help you out. We deal with these all the time. And obviously you don't want to joke around with it only because it's a year license suspension you're looking at. And that just snowballs into a miserable circumstance.
Well, I'm telling you, you got two jobs and I'm trying to buy a house, and I just see like a lack of license not helping that situation.
Yeah, we can clean this up for you. We can clean this up for you.
So you're saying should I still plead not guilty though?
Yeah, plead not guilty to set up a hearing. Yeah. And in the meantime, then get us involved. We'll come to the hearing with you, and we'll smooth it all over. The other thing is, and here's why a lawyer is really important in this circumstance. While you certainly could talk to the officer, if the conversation starts to go a little badly, then it gets personal, and then you might raise his hackles, and you raise your hackles. I can go in there and be like, Jesse's just a dummy, and chuckle about it. And talk him through it, and then it's not like you're gonna. I'm one step removed, so I don't have any emotion in it. Plus, I can be a little more deprecating about you than you probably can be about you.
Exactly. Well, I was kind of hoping that this wasn't I wouldn't have to lawyer up over something as trivial as me not realizing that I had a debt of a mere $25.
Right. Now, of course, if you were talking to the officer, I would suggest I wouldn't call it trivial. I'd be like, listen, Jesse screwed up, and let me tell you. And let me tell you what, I'm going to, here, are you married?
No.
Yeah, see, cause sometimes if you're married, I'd be like, his wife says he's dumb. But my point is just that you can be a little more deprecating of a client sometimes than the client can be. And more importantly, you might make the mistake of saying, well, this really isn't a big deal. And then the officer's going to be like, well, are you learning anything from this? You're telling me it's not a big deal. I'll show you how big a deal it can be. Yeah. So that's where you don't want to end up, and that's why you need an intermediary. I got to run because I got a few more callers.
All right, well, thanks.
All right, dude. Go to weekendappointment.com and look us up. Kate, you're on the air. Kate.
Hi.
Yes.
I wasn't sure who you were talking to. We've been living on a little bit more than 10 acres for over 20 years. And we're zoned agricultural. And so since we have over 10 acres, we come under the right to farm law. Well, we have some people that have moved in next door to us because their children would enjoy seeing our animals.
Okay.
And they begin complaining about our animals pooping when they look at them. And this has just gone on and on and on, one thing after another, and they've turned us in for the dogs barking, and the dog warden came and parked across our driveway and refused to allow us to leave until we answered his questions.
Right.
And he said he admitted that the call came in as a barking complaint, and he converted it to a neglect abuse complaint.
Huh.
He admitted that. He told them that I was under the right to farm law, therefore he could not act on any complaints about barking dogs. He could only act on a complaint of abuse or neglect.
You're going to have to contact me off the air if you need some more help with this. I got to run. Jason, same thing. Sorry about that. Hey, guys, I'll be back next week. It's weekendappointment.com. I hope Kate does get a hold of me because I think I can help her. In the meantime, we did open a Dauphin County office. We got a Harrisburg location. So there you go. Harrisburg, Lancaster, Carlisle, Chambersburg. Go to weekendappointment.com. I'll see you next week.